Okay, let's jump right into this explainer, because today we're tackling something absolutely massive. We are looking at how we can systematically take the intense, frankly overwhelming planetary chaos around us and turn it into coordinated, regenerative action. Now, I know that almost sounds like science fiction, but the actual blueprints for this, they're already here. We're living in a world that feels incredibly volatile right now. But what if all that turbulence isn't just a sign of total collapse? What if it's actually the raw energy we desperately need to build a fundamentally healthier civilization?
So we have to start with a huge question. As our world faces these compounding shocks, I'm talking everything from severe ecological stress to total institutional breakdown, how do we actually align human capability to essentially rescue our own future? This isn't just about coming up with good ideas. Honestly, we have plenty of good ideas. The real bottleneck is how we organize, how we coordinate, and how we actually trust each other enough to implement those ideas on a global scale, all without losing our local sovereignty.
To really grasp the solution here, we first have to totally understand the problem. And that problem is what we call the polycrisis. It's this deeply entangled, chaotic web of global challenges. We're not just dealing with climate change in one corner and then, say, technological misinformation in a totally different corner. They are all colliding in real time. Think about it. A severe drought hits, which snaps a supply chain, prices skyrocket, and suddenly you have social unrest that makes it politically impossible to pass the climate policy you needed in the first place. It's a highly unstable, totally non-linear domino effect.
So, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll cover the crisis of fragmentation. Second, a living coherence infrastructure. Third, the core source architecture. Fourth, the coherence communications hub. And fifth, building islands of coherence.
All right, let's kick things off with part 1, the crisis of fragmentation, understanding the polycrisis.
The absolutely crucial point to understand here is that fragmentation isn't just some annoying side issue. It is literally the fundamental civilizational failure mode that is amplifying all of our other crises. It's like trying to listen to an orchestra, but every single musician is playing from a completely different piece of sheet music, and they're all wearing noise-canceling headphones. Even their most brilliant individual efforts are just going to clash. Our current institutions were built for a much slower, much more linear world. When you apply that old, disconnected style of problem-solving to a tangled polycrisis, well, you might optimize one economic metric, but you accidentally destroy a crucial ecological one in the process. Contradictions just pile up, public trust shatters, and we end up desperately lacking the unified infrastructure needed to actually see the whole picture.
Which brings us nicely to part 2, a living coherence infrastructure, metabolizing chaos.
This is where we introduce the real engine of change here, the Phoenix platform. It acts as what's called a social dissipative structure. Now, I know that is a really heavy academic term, but let's just break it down simply. Think of a windmill in a massive storm. Instead of being completely destroyed by those chaotic, violent winds, the windmill actually metabolizes that turbulent energy and turns it into highly usable electricity. Phoenix is designed to be the social equivalent of that windmill. In physics, when a highly unstable system gets pushed to its absolute breaking point, it doesn't always just collapse. Sometimes it reorganizes itself into a much more complex, stable system by literally absorbing the chaotic energy. Phoenix is built to process our current social turbulence and transform it into coordinated, regenerative action.
So how exactly does it do that? Well, Phoenix uses a very specific 5-step pathway to pull off this transformation from chaos to coherence. It starts with all those messy, raw inflows of the polycrisis, things like misinformation, ecological stress, totally uncoordinated systems. The platform then steps in with step 1, listen and map, which makes all that hidden complexity visible. Step 2 is building trust, creating genuinely safe spaces for collaboration. Step 3 is where it actually coordinates action. Step 4 is learn and adapt. And finally, step 5 is regenerate and connect, which creates these beautiful, higher-order patterns. It's absolutely not just a piece of software. It's a living, breathing, coherence infrastructure.
Let's look a bit deeper under the hood in part 3. The core source architecture, building the foundation. If you're wondering if this is all just pie-in-the-sky theory, it's definitely not. There is a rigorously documented ecosystem behind this, featuring a massive 49-document deep source architecture. We're talking about incredibly detailed field guides, comprehensive learning systems, strict governance protocols, and very practical institutional playbooks. The entire goal here is to provide a synchronized, logistical guidance system for transformation. It's built to help literally any community or organization definitively answer 3 basic but vital questions. Where are we now? Where are we going? And who exactly do we need to collaborate with right now to actually get there?
And because the creators of Phoenix are realistic and know we can't just flip a switch and change the world overnight, the platform actually rolls out in phase steps through what is called the first critical path. You start off by mapping the system and building out the master strategy. But crucially, step 2 is establishing trust, consent, and governance protocols. This is a huge deal. It's a governance-first approach, not a tech-first approach. From there, you move into community field mapping. Then you launch what they call coherence cells. These are small, highly coordinated groups that generate immediate, visible wins on the ground to prove that the model actually works. And finally, opportunity cards are distributed to dynamically match available resources with urgent local needs.
So how does all of this stay synced up? Let's get into part 4, the Coherence Communications Hub, the nervous system.
This communications hub is really the active nervous system of the whole operation. It takes a wildly fragmented world and finally puts everyone on the exact same page. Think about all the different groups involved in a community: local residents, small businesses, educators, public agencies, funders, and ecological stewards. Historically, those groups operate in total silos. They barely talk, but the Coherence Communications Hub sits right in the middle of them all, synchronizing the flow of information to achieve actual logistical coherence. It's powered by this incredible synergy engine that constantly detects where brand new alignments can be created across these totally different sectors, basically turning previously wasted, fragmented efforts into powerful, shared impact.
And to really see the logistical magic at work here, you just have to look at what goes in versus what comes out. The hub collects the raw, messy reality on the ground, stuff like urgent community needs, deep local knowledge, funding updates, and yes, even local concerns and counter-narratives. It doesn't ignore the friction, it actively processes it. And out the other side, it distributes highly coordinated, actionable guidance. We're talking dynamically matched resources, just-in-time training, and totally unified project timelines. This setup ensures that, for instance, a community project isn't stalled waiting on funding that already exists in a different department, and educators aren't wasting time training people for jobs that the local economy doesn't even need anymore. Everything simply moves in sync.
Which brings us to our final section, part 5, building islands of coherence, real-world regeneration.
These islands of coherence are where all these massive, abstract concepts actually hit the ground and become real life. The strategy isn't to try and transform the entire planet all at once. Instead, you start in bounded, real-world pilot environments. A perfect tangible example of this is the ongoing pilot project in Santa Barbara, California, involving Fielding and several other local stakeholders. What they are doing is creating a localized node where real trust is actively built and where youth and elders are genuinely co-evolving and learning together. And the truly brilliant ultimate vision here is that once these local hubs successfully demonstrate this kind of regenerative action, they can eventually plug into each other, almost like a universal adapter, networking together to form a highly resilient planetary fabric of coherence.
I want to highlight this quote because it really hits the nail on the head. Phoenix functions as a mirror, mediator, guidance system, and wayfinding partner rather than a command and control authority. This perfectly anchors the core philosophy of the entire project. This infrastructure is specifically designed to empower human wisdom. It is absolutely not trying to be some dystopian, centralized AI command center that tells everyone what to do. It uses highly relationally aware technology to help us see our own interdependencies a lot more clearly, but it fundamentally respects local sovereignty. It's just there to guide us, to reflect our reality back to us, and to ensure that technology is actually serving human dignity and planetary well-being.
So, throughout this explainer, we've seen exactly how the Phoenix platform charts a real logistical pathway out of the chaos of the polycrisis and into coordinated regenerative action. It proves that the severe fragmentation we're experiencing today doesn't have to be the end of the story. It's actually just the raw material for our next big evolution. The blueprints are real, the social nervous system is actively being built. So, as we look toward a future that is going to demand a level of unprecedented coordination, the question isn't just whether humanity can reorganize itself. The real question is, are you ready to step out of the fragmentation and help build your own island of coherence?